I believe it's the everyday change maker, people like you and me, who have the power to make real meaningful change one small step at a time. Hi, I'm Linda Mackey, and I'm a personal brand photographer and coach, helping entrepreneurs to breathe life into their image, passion, and purpose. And this is the Eloquent Entrepreneur podcast, where I chat with my clients and change makers alike from across Canada and beyond about the work they do, the stories that have shaped them, and the impact that they're making, all to inspire and motivate others to do the same. Because making a difference just starts with showing up, and these conversations remind us just how empowering that can be. So welcome to the show and enjoy. Today I have a very special guest. I'm speaking with Megan Edge. She is a client and a friend, an intuitive counselor, healer, teacher, writer, plant medicine practitioner who has been supporting people in deep healing and personal transformation for decades. And through her work with Megan Edge Healing and beyond the Garden Gate Botanicals and her educational offerings, Megan creates safe, grounded spaces where people can heal past trauma, reconnect with themselves, and live with greater clarity and purpose. I had the pleasure of photographing Megan in 2023 in the midst of her rebrand, and she is doing so well, and I'm super excited to have you here. So thank you for joining us. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Linda. I'm really excited for our conversation today, and I'm doing well today. Thank you for asking.
Yay! I know I feel like I haven't seen you for ages, which is true.
It is true, yes.
And I feel like this is like we haven't even had a chance to really chat before we get going on this, but we'll just dive right in, I think.
Exactly.
We're going to learn a lot about you and what's going on in your life right now and all the stuff. So let's start right where you are right now. So tell us, I shared a little bit about your bio, but what is your work all about today and what are you focusing on?
Well, I love that question. How are you right now, right where you are? I was thinking about that this morning as I was getting ready for our conversation. And because I am a busy mind in many places, classic Gemini, I don't often give myself the opportunity or permission to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I try to walk my talk, because these are, of course, the things that I would recommend to my clients who might be overwhelmed with what they're doing in their lives, what's happening. I would say, take that breath, put everything down, turn everything off. Where are you right now? How are you right now?
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that an easy thing to do, however. And as an entrepreneur, you're very familiar with this as well. You know, we wear so many hats. Personally, there are many things that are happening in my life right now that are asking me to take a step back from the busyness, the transformation, the rebranding, the remarketing, the re-emerging into my field and into my community. And I'm doing my very best to pay attention to that. So I just had a dear friend and client pass away unexpectedly the other day.
Sorry.
Last week she went into palliative
and
then she just passed away. And in that loss, there is the opportunity for me to, again, give myself permission to stop and allow those emotions of grief and loss to come forward, and also be able to step more fully and more deeply into my role as caregiver and friend to the family, and how can I help. And so it's that balance between, well, I'm doing well. Everything in my life is good. And then there are these challenges coming in that at a very personal level that are requiring me to also take that pause, take that breath and realize that it isn't only about how I show up for others. It's about how I show up for me. So in a nutshell, if that's a nutshell, that's where I'm at right now.
I totally hear you. And we really do need to take time to pause and see where we're at. 2025 was a difficult year, I think, for a lot of people, closing out of cycles, and if you're into all that kind of stuff. But now we're moving into a better year, I think.
Yes,
more action-oriented, maybe.
But we're still in it. We're still in it. We have 2025, depending on which calendar you're following and tradition you're following. And we we're familiar a little bit with Chinese astrology because we are aware of the Chinese New Year, and everybody wants to know what creature is representing of that New Year. And this year for the Chinese calendar, it's the fire horse.
Right.
Last year was the snake. The snake is all about shedding. And so many people I know on every facet of community went through some form of shedding in the Gregorian calendar, the January to January calendar.
That's right.
And this overlap with the horse calendar. So we're still in it until the 18th or 17th of February. So if anyone's wondering why.
No, I can't wait till February 17th.
Yeah. Why things might still be showing up, it's because we're just at that.
Oh my gosh.
Gotta do a little bit more.
2025, I tell you. It's like gonna really. But anyway, I mean, okay, this is going to come up, I'm sure, in our conversations more, but in your work, I mean, it's very heart-led. It's very impactful in people's lives. So let's talk about that. Like, how are you? Well, maybe share a little bit about the actual work you do, and then how that is impacting people's lives.
Yes. Well, and as you shared in the introduction, I've been doing this work for a very long time now, over 3 decades, as my work, the work that supports me and my family, but also it's been my whole life. I've always gravitated towards being of help, being of service. How can I help? It's like a mantra for me. How I have crafted my work over these last 30 years is to create a container that I call the mind, body, and soul container. And so the way that I do my work is very holistic. It brings in multiple modalities of healing, from the physical, which is where my nature as medicine, food as medicine, essential oils, aromatherapy, nourishment, all of that physical activity comes in when I'm supporting someone on their healing journey. Because our healing journeys are not just about the story we're telling ourselves. That's a key point of the work that I do, is the creating a new relationship with the stories we are telling ourselves about our life's experiences. That's the mind piece, and helping people understand what they're thinking and the impact of their thoughts on the outcome of their lives, which is that's a big container right there. And then the soul piece is looking at our connection to the divine, whatever that faith piece is for us. And even if you consider yourself agnostic or atheist, that is still a faith, folks. You still have a faith around that by definition. So it's that healing the connection that we have with the divine, because for many people who have experienced trauma, the connection to the divine is often severed or severely damaged, because there's that sense of having been let down, right? The who am I, where am I in my world, who's supporting me, where is God or goddess or whomever. So the journey that I help people with, that I hold hands with as we go through this journey, is multifaceted, and it really does encompass every piece of it. Because quite honestly, Linda, I don't want my client to have to go somewhere else for their energy healing and have to tell their story all over again for that energy healer, as amazing as I'm sure that they are, to be able to deeply impact my client's healing journey. If I can create that container of a one-stop healing space, then that's what my ultimate goal is to carry that person through the whole journey, which is what I do ultimately.
Well, yeah, and that's very comforting, and helps people to manifest what they want to create in their lives. So what would you say is the main thing that people come away with after working with you?
It can be a gradual process, absolutely, because we're doing a lot, but here's the thing: by the time somebody comes to a practitioner like myself, and I would consider myself an alternative practitioner, I'm not of the mainstream, they have generally gone through all of the mainstream modalities.
Yeah, they're like, I need to figure this out now.
Yes, yeah, and they've come away with some potential element of healing. But what I most often hear from people is, I wish I'd found you first.
Right.
I wish I knew that this was an option first, because they haven't found the deep and permanent healing that they are craving, that they know is possible for them. And that's the feedback I've received from clients who have worked with me all the way through, from beginning to end of whatever the healing journey is that they're on in that moment, is, I feel healed, right? So whatever they've come to me with, the trauma, the grief, the loss, the need and desire for transformation, those aspects of their life experience still exist. The events that brought them to this place in their life where they needed this kind of healing, those events still exist in their story, but the relationship that they have with those events has changed and has healed. And so now those events no longer define who they are or their experience of their life. They are simply a part of their story, and in fact can be in their own right very purposeful in their lives.
Right.
They can do something with that experience now that they couldn't have done before, because the experience was so all encompassing in a PTSD type of relationship. That no longer exists. So now they can use those life experiences and do something helpful or beneficial to themselves or others with that experience.
So how would you describe your typical client who comes to you? Like, do they have physical ailments, or is it mostly emotional and based on trauma-based stuff, or is it a kind of a mixture of everything?
It's a mixture of
Yeah.
everything. I mean, the only
Yeah.
thing that would be typical or consistent for the most part is that they've tried everything else, and they still don't feel grounded in their body or in their life experiences. They feel like something hasn't yet been touched. They haven't had the facility to go deep into the source of what their trauma is. They may have been given a pill. They may have been given an exercise. They may have gone through a counseling journey, but their whole life hadn't been acknowledged as something that is a holistic experience. Yeah.
So how would your work, because I'm just trying to differentiate for the audience, because I mean, it's not like psychotherapy. It's not like, you're not a psychologist, you're not a psychiatrist, how would you differentiate yourself?
It can't be boxed into a particular
Yeah,
description.
exactly.
When I say mind, body, and soul healing, for the women who go through my healer certification program, my 12-month program, they graduate as mind, body, and soul healers.
Right.
That's the name that I have come up with for the work.
Yeah.
To encompass the body of the
Yeah.
work.
Perfectly.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a
Yeah.
psychiatrist. I am a women's studies graduate with an advanced major in social work, and I am a crisis line counselor. I worked on a crisis line for a year and a half, I think, when I was in university. I went through all the training for that. So I have that background in
Yes.
counseling. I have that background in coaching. I've done many, many training programs over the last 30 years to develop my own skills. But fundamentally, how I show up in my work is how I show up in my life. It's just who I am. And I remember going to see a counselor when my former husband and I were figuring out our relationship and eventually separating out from our marriage. And the counselor said to us, "If I see you in the community, I will ignore you. Please don't take that personally, but professionally, I'm not allowed to interact with you outside of our sessions." And I understand that. That's part of the protocol for being part of a college of counselors or psychiatrists or whatever the college is. For me, that's not going to work, because when I see a client in the community, there's an opportunity for me to connect with them, not in a counselorly way, but as a human being. And it's also an opportunity for me to see my clients in their real world and be able to receive information about how they are in the real world, even in a brief interaction, that we can then bring into the work that I do with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that makes total sense. I mean, from a client's perspective, I mean, you can't get the whole picture by just going for a 1 hour
Exactly.
session.
Exactly, Linda. And
Yeah.
that's why I do this as a holistic
Yeah.
endeavor. I think of the doctors of old, the doctors who would go into the home of the family to treat the person and would see everything that was going on in the environment with an understanding that it's everything that we do throughout the day that affects who we are and how we are in the world. So if there's stress at home, if there's abuse at
Mm-hmm.
home, if there's malnutrition at home, I mean, whatever the circumstances are, or just tension at home, that's not going
Mm-hmm.
to come across in a 10-minute
Yeah.
sit down in the office with your doctor who's only allowed to look at one thing. You're only allowed to come in with one thing.
Yeah,
We're
I know. That's a
multifaceted.
pet peeve of mine for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Hmm.
Um, so you mentioned earlier that this is something that this has been part of your life from the very beginning. And I know that's not by accident. So like, can you go a little deeper on that? Like, what is the story behind that? Like, how do you feel like, when was the moment that this kind of clicked for you, in terms of your life path and purpose?
There isn't a single moment that comes to mind. It's more of what I remember of when I was a little girl and what mattered to me. So from the very earliest age, I remember uh, looking after animals, looking after the bird with the broken wing, the stray cat, the saving the spider instead of killing it, putting it outside. And I grew up in a family that mentored that for me. I was really fortunate. I now recognize how fortunate I was to be brought up in a foraging family. We were very connected to nature. I learned at a very early age what mushrooms were safe to harvest and to forage for, what wild onion looks like, what wild garlic looks like,
Mm-hmm.
fiddleheads, all of these things. This was just a part of my growing up. And I feel that because I had that connection with nature, I was
Mm-hmm.
afforded a larger picture, a bigger picture of the interconnectedness of everything,
Right.
and an empathy that maybe I was born with. I think
Yeah.
people are born with empathy. I think you can develop empathy, but at a certain point in your life, if you're not an empathetic person, you probably aren't going to become an empathetic person unless something very significant happens in your life that creates a brain reset for you. So
Yeah, I
I
agree.
I was that little girl who was breaking up fights on the playground and protecting the kids from the bullies and
Hmm.
standing up to the bullies, and
Yeah, exactly.
that
Yeah.
was me. And what I wanted to be when I was a little girl, besides the first female Dalai Lama of Tibet and the first female baseball player for the Expos. After that, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to help. I wanted to be in front of
Mm,
and help empower people, little people, to understand who they are in the world and to give them that space to do that. And I've taken
hmm.
that into my work ever since I opened up
Right.
my shop as a healer, put my shingle out. I've been teaching and helping people to connect in with their innate intuition, their capacity to heal, to think beyond the box, to feel empowered and
Hmm.
to really thrive in their own
Hmm.
capacity.
Right.
So it's always been there. So the wanting to help, the wanting to share, the seeing in others what they cannot see in themselves, and helping them get to that place where they can see it.
Hmm. So would
Yeah.
you say, because you mentioned a few things, empathy, empowerment, what was the other thing? Connection to nature. I mean, you've had so many chapters. I mean, you've been doing this for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is probably, I mean, they probably all kind of weaved in there throughout the years, but would you say the empowerment piece is something that you just is the common, or what did you say, the common thread, or the thing that's kind of like the foundation of what you do and what you bring in?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that that's
Yeah.
cornerstone, is
Yeah.
empower and creating a space of empowerment.
Yeah.
And as a woman in our
Yeah.
culture, and growing up as a little girl in the 60s and
Hmm.
70s and 80s, where, well, and even today, I mean, my daughters who are in their 20s now, they're still faced
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
the
exactly.
the war on women, right?
Hmm.
That we have to work twice as hard to get half as much, kind
Yeah.
of mantra. So
Yeah.
seeing that there was an injustice, this was actually how my father described me in his wedding speech. He said,
Oh.
Megan, since she was a little girl, has always tried to right the wrongs. If she
Oh, that's
sees
so amazing.
injustice,
Yeah.
she wants to
And
she
that's
wants
so
to fix it.
powerful.
She wants
That
to
really
correct it.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
And so that the
empowerment piece. Yeah,
fairness.
go ahead.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
want to say that sense of
Yeah.
fairness, right?
Yes.
Why can't we be fair to one another? So seeing places where I can help women predominantly. I do have male clients. I've always worked with men as well. And those
Yes.
men who wish to heal, God bless them. God has blessed them. But the women, and myself through my own experiences as well, we need that leg up. We need
We
our
do.
sisters to be with us. And when we
Mm-hmm.
see a woman who is empowered and confident and strong and can help those of us who are not yet there, that's a really
Mm-hmm.
powerful piece of that empowerment.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
empowerment is definitely the cornerstone.
Yeah. Well, I love that because the empowerment of women and people in general.
Oh,
Um, the empower the empowerment piece is really what um, creates change in people, and I feel like that is a big part of my work as a photographer. And I've, only in recent years kind of recognized that as a very big piece of what I do. So I think it's really, um, yeah, it's what we need in this world. People that are
mm-hmm.
going to help empower people, empower cultures, empower communities all over the world, and one person at a time, or more, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's actually been one of my
Yeah,
mantras is one person at a time.
yeah,
You remember that hair commercial from I think it was the 80s or the 70s, and she told two friends and she told two
yes,
friends, or maybe
exactly.
it
I
was
know. I
held
just
on.
quoted that the other day.
Did you?
That's hilarious, and so on and so
And
on.
so on and so forth.
I used to love
And
that
yeah,
commercial. It was so cool.
well, that commercial really stuck with me as a young
Yeah,
person because of
yeah,
the message, which is if one person achieves a state of grace, whatever that looks like for them, there is a
yeah,
ripple effect,
yeah. They can
right?
pass it on to the next person, or influence, inspire,
Exactly,
all of
exactly.
those
Because
things.
we are energy and energy goes out. We're not a container that is a closed system. We are in
Yeah,
constant connection with other people through our energetic field. And we
yeah,
know this. This is not woohoo. We have the research. We know this. So
yeah,
we understand now how energetics work in the human
yeah,
body and those interactions. So if I make a
yeah,
change in my life, if I choose to use high vibration words to change my relationship with my story and the way that I'm interacting with other people, that sets up a vibration. And the people around
hmm,
me are going to receive or not receive, depending on where they are at, that vibration.
exactly. Yeah,
And that mentoring, then, if they see a positive change in somebody around them who's doing this kind of work, they might, on an unconscious or conscious level, decide, I want to have that too. I want to be a part of that.
yeah.
Right.
Your energy can't help but affect the other person. And I've been saying this for years when I talk to clients. This is an energy exchange. When you
Mm-hmm.
work with me, we're feeding off each other, and that's how we're going to create these, beautiful images that really do reflect your energy and your personality and your vision and your, you know, um, aura, or whatever you want to call it, like just what you're bringing um, to the world. So I think it's really, really powerful. Um, that piece, and I mean, we could
Mm-hmm.
probably talk for hours about that. So when we talk about your work, I mean, I know it's not always easy. What are some of the challenges that you've had in your business? Maybe just a few, I don't know how many there are, but and how you've been able to work through them, because I think that's what stops a lot of people, like from maybe taking the next step, or wanting to do something bigger than themselves or their whatever work they're doing.
Yes. The biggest challenge that I've encountered, and one that I have found to be quite triggering, and I'm very aware of that triggering, is
Mm,
when someone outright, without even a shred of an open mind, dismisses the work that I do.
mm,
That I've come up against that, and I
right.
find incredibly challenging. And I do my own work around why am I getting triggered? What's coming up for me around why this person is rejecting
Hmm.
out of hand everything that I do and everything that I believe in. And
Right.
I have done a lot of work on that, and for the most part, it doesn't matter what someone else thinks of me or the work that I do, because that's coming through their filters and it actually has nothing to do with me. It's the same thing as what someone
Right.
thinks of me on a personal level. It's
Yeah.
not my business. I can't do anything about that. But every once in a while, the way in which it comes up will open up something in me, maybe an old wound that then I have the opportunity to do some work around and question, and then bring myself back into that state of grace and that centeredness around the importance of the work that I do, and there's so many of the people that I've
Mm-hmm.
worked with over the years who have benefited from it. That's more at a personal level. At a business
Mm-hmm.
level, it's the biggest challenge. Right now, the biggest challenge is filling classes and workshops, to be perfectly honest and
Yeah,
transparent with you.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's, it's a difficult time with everything that's going on in the world and
And I'm hearing that
all
from
that.
a lot of people,
Yeah, yeah.
that that's not the easiest
Again,
thing right now.
energy, all these
Energy,
different energies,
exactly. Yeah,
positive and negative, that
that's
come
right.
into our
That's right.
lives. And
But when I was starting this as
mm,
my business, when I realized, when I stepped out of my marriage and I knew that I still wanted to do this work and this was going to now have to become my full-time work, whereas before it had been more part-time. But in order to support myself and my children, this
mm-hmm,
had to be my work full-time. I took practical steps. I took some women-oriented business courses, because women do business differently than men do. And I could
mm-hmm,
see that I wasn't going to do very well in a male-focused, linear business model. I needed something that was more of a container, which is what women are really good at doing. And I knew I
mm-hmm.
needed to have some kind of a business model that allowed me to do multiple things, as opposed to, this is the one thing that I do.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I educated myself in different ways of showing up in the world as a business woman. And then
Mm-hmm,
what I realized when I started my work is that it was quite isolating, because at the
mm-hmm,
time that I started this work, there really, to my knowledge, was not a community of healers working with one another or supporting one another or helping one another in Victoria, as
mm-hmm.
there may be now. Now there's many groups of women who come together to support one another. So I knew that I needed to create that community, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
that's where that model of a client becomes a friend becomes a student becomes a client, that circular relationship with the people in my life. And as I
Mm-hmm,
taught classes, I created community, because then I would create space for us to all come together outside of class and support one
mm-hmm.
another and help each other through. And I ended up creating a program called Thriving in Your Intuitive Business. And it's the mundane and magical of running a successful intuitive business, because then I want my students to succeed as healers, so that we can be in
Mm-hmm.
community with one another. And also because the world needs healers. And I'm not going to heal
Mm-hmm.
everybody. So, we need to work together. So it's
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
collaborative model versus
Yeah.
the
We have to
competitive
model it
model.
and teach it. So would
Exactly.
you say that was kind of, we're talking about you're stepping into visibility and you're, showing up as your brand, and I hate throwing that word around, but I mean, it's kind of like, you're showing up as the teacher, the healer. Like, how did you see yourself as a leader or change maker? Like, or was that the point when you started sharing your knowledge? Was that kind of the point where you're like, yeah, I'm a leader and I know what I'm talking about? Like, or kind of what does that look like?
So from a place of self-confidence, I can
Mm,
say that I have always been given the role of leader in any
hmm.
set of circumstances.
Right.
And again,
It
I think
wasn't new to you.
no, it
Yeah.
wasn't. And it's an energy thing.
Yeah.
Um, I could think back to university or even high school, and the teacher would ask a question and mine would be the first hand up, because I
Right.
wasn't afraid to answer the question, and because I
Yeah.
wanted the knowledge. I was thirsty for the knowledge of the things
Yeah.
that I was learning. So I wanted to participate. And as soon as one person, cracks that bubble of, no one's allowed to say anything, then other people start asking questions. Other
Yeah.
people start engaging. And
Yeah. Oh, that's
that in
interesting.
itself
Yeah.
is a natural uh, behavior
Was
of
it?
leadership. So it's not that I
Yeah.
set out to be a leader.
Yeah. You just were like, how would you, like, I'm just curious about that. Like, where did that come from? That innate confidence or that innate knowing that you are, I don't know, passionate or like, yeah, where did that confidence come from?
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm thinking, right, like the person to get the ball rolling. the
Yes.
person to get the conversation started,
Mm-hmm.
because I can't stand just sitting in quiet
Yeah.
and waiting for someone else to do
Yeah.
it.
'Cause I bet there's a lot of people watching, including me. Like, I mean, I was always like terrified to put my hand up or use my voice. You know, even though I may have had an opinion or
Mm-hmm.
something to say, I would shrink a little bit. I think a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there like that.
That's true. And when you ask that
Yeah.
question, and I love that question, I've never been asked that before, where did
Yeah.
that come from? Well,
Yeah.
sure, perhaps I was born with it in some capacity, when my
Yeah,
soul
you
came in,
must
whatever,
have.
that's a whole other conversation. But on a more practical, grounded level, it
Yeah.
came from my upbringing. My
Yeah.
father was a journalist. He was, when I was growing up in Montreal, I grew up in Vancouver, Montreal, Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to Halifax for university. So I've been all the way across the
Mm-hmm.
country.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was he was the publisher. He was the publisher of the Gazette in Montreal. He was
Oh,
a
wow.
journalist. He was always asking questions. He was always looking for information.
Mm,
My mother was more of the intuitive, artistic type. They
right.
always treated me, appropriate to my age and development, as part of the conversation.
Right.
I
Oh,
don't have
wow.
any memories of being told that what I was thinking or saying was unimportant. Now, I also grew up in a household where children were often expected to be seen and not heard, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that innate sense of justice and curiosity that I have meant that I didn't always obey that that
Yeah. Yeah.
often.
No, I was the same way. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think, yeah, I look back and I remember like I was very boisterous, but as I grew older, it was kind of like, okay, you're seen, not heard, and there was, I don't know, through parents and other, adults, you kind of got the message that you gotta just be quiet, be in the background. So that's kind of, but
Yeah.
if I were kind of to be that natural innate person that I was as a child, I would be probably a completely different person if it weren't for the environmental factors that kind of hushed me, right?
As we're having this conversation, this is so
Mm,
fascinating. I'm thinking
mm,
back on my life, and where was a place in my life where I lost my voice? Where did I
mm,
stop speaking up and speaking my mind? And it was in the waning years of my first marriage,
mm.
where the
Yeah,
situation between myself and my then husband had gotten to the point where it was easier for me to just be quiet
yeah,
and allow him to assert himself in a way that I never ever would have accepted as acceptable any other time in my life. But you know what? I was tired.
mm,
I had two babies. I'd had a
yeah,
miscarriage in between, and I was unwell. I was in full blown fibromyalgia and I didn't know it.
mm,
And I
right,
just didn't have the energy to fight it. And I lost
mm,
my voice. And
yeah,
part of coming out of that relationship was finding my voice again, quite
yeah,
literally finding my voice again. I
yeah.
ended up having my tonsils removed when I was in my early 40s after I'd left the
Oh,
marriage.
wow.
Like, if you want to talk about symbolism,
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, these things manifest, right? And
they
it's a,
sure
a,
do.
a
Yeah,
direct relation to what you're feeling and going through in your life. And I
that's
mean,
right.
I can certainly relate to what you're saying. I did lose my voice as well, and I've only found it again through my work as a photographer and doing this podcast. And then, it all relates to what's going on in your life, in your personal
It
life, in your
does.
friendships, your romantic and
Yeah,
marriage and having children. I mean, it's all energy, like we were talking about before.
exactly.
So, I mean, I
Exactly.
think probably a lot of people watching can relate, and these are things that we need to look at, and having people like yourself to help people work through this. I mean, it is trauma too. A lot of this stuff is trauma. It's like in different levels, right?
Absolutely.
That really
Absolutely.
affect um,
Yeah,
who you are as a person. And when we're children, that's kind of like the essence of who we are, because it's innate in us, and then it's only through life experience and the people we come across that kind of gets shifted and changed, either in positive or negative ways. And
yeah. And a lot
so
of the people who come to me, they come to me because they've lost their voice. And
yeah,
that's why we start with the story. I want to know how they're telling their story about their experiences, because in that
yeah,
I can see the nuances of the power of the words that they're using and the beliefs that they have about what's happened to them, why it's
hmm
happened to them, and what's
hmm
possible for them. And when I found my voice again, and it was especially after that surgery, because I actually had to learn how to, not learn how to talk again in that I had to understand words, but my throat was a whole different landscape. So my voice changed, the pitch of my voice
Wow.
changed. And the time when I couldn't talk because of the surgery was a time of silence for me. And in that time, I created the Heart's Journey, which is the card that I pulled at the beginning. Well, actually, I don't think we had that one on here, but this was it here that I pulled, which is called Unique Heart. And I created this box set, and these are oracle cards or meditation cards or guidance cards, whatever you want to call them. And it all ties in with nature and my relationship with nature, finding these beautiful hearts in nature in the shapes of rocks and clouds and plants and things like that. And then remembering what I was going through as I was finding these shapes when I didn't have my voice and was trying to extricate myself, was trying to find my voice again, and weaving that story of experience into this amazing healing tool.
Right. Yeah. They're reminders, and they reconnect you. Yeah. They reconnect you to memories and feelings. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of power in those, like a tool like that you just shared, that really help bring us back to ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to shift gears a little bit because it kind of ties in, but we want to talk about, I know we did your photos together, and this is all part of the, becoming process. And I'm just curious how it was for you, like when you decided it was time to, because you were already putting yourself out there, but just kind of you needed to put yourself out there in the new Megan or the new branding or the new, next level in your expressing yourself.
Right.
What were you hoping to express or step into at that point? And then another question, how did that shift for you, either during or after in your business or for you personally?
So to answer that question, I'm going to give just a bit of context, which is that up until 2019, I had a big, huge, thriving practice. I was teaching, I was certifying people in 2 different healing modalities. I was standing up in front of huge crowds. I was traveling, giving talks, doing my own doing my one-on-ones with people online, the whole bit. I had my own podcast. I had a radio show. My voice was big. I was out there big. And now the world imploded and we all went through many different things and many different traumas. And for much of that time, I was maintaining as best I could the work that I was doing. We all had to shift to doing it in different ways. And some of us stood up with a loud voice, like I did on many occasions, to question what was happening and the things that were going on and the expectations of us as people, and really got to dive into personal health choices. So there was a lot that I was working with at that time. And in 2019, my father died in a very traumatic way. And then over the next 4 years, I lost another 3 people very close to me. And then we lost a very dear family property. And at that point, I knew I had to stop. Like, talk about pushing through. I was pushing through. And that final loss was so deep because it touched so many aspects of myself and my definition of myself and the space that I thought I took up in the world and the future that we had planned that was now no longer going to be happening. So I very consciously, with deep intention, said, I am closing my doors. I took myself off all social media.
That takes a lot of courage. Yeah.
It did take a lot of courage. I said no to my clients. I said no to the work I was doing. I stopped everything, stopped the radio show. I went radio silent.
Right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I turned myself around to be with my family and look after my daughters who were also dealing with all of these losses. And they were still in high school. So one of them the other one was trying to do online stuff, and they needed me. I needed me.
Yeah.
All right. And in that time, I also because I can't sit still, was creating other avenues so that when I emerged, and I knew I would re-emerge, kind of like the butterfly coming out of
Mm-hmm.
the chrysalis or the
Mm-hmm.
from the flames. I knew I wanted to have things in place so that I could step back when I was ready to do so. And one of those things was to reach out to you and
Mm-hmm.
say, right, it's been 5 years. I haven't put out a newsletter in 5 years. I haven't seen a client in 2. I haven't looked at my website. I haven't posted anything. And also, I look very different than I did the last time I did all of these things.
Yeah.
So I need a new face. I need a new image. And then it was about what am I going to bring back with me? What worked, what wasn't working, what needed to be refreshed. And all of that was a process. And so I essentially took myself through a healing process of deep and permanent transformation, like I offer my clients, so
Mm-hmm.
that I could show up back in my business in the way that my business was ready for me to come back into. So one of the things I teach in the thriving in your business, in your intuitive business, is that your business is its own energy, right?
Mm-hmm. It definitely is. Yeah.
You can't force it. You can't push it. It's like any relationship. If you try to force someone to be the way you want them to be, they're going to push
Mm-hmm.
back.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've all experienced that.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the same thing with your business. So I had to listen and keep tapping back in. Is it time to start teaching classes again? Nope. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that yet. What about this? What about this thing? So Beyond the Garden Gate Botanicals became one of those businesses that said, yes, I want to be a part of this new
Mm-hmm.
reemergence that you're doing, because the world now is looking for natural healing. We're looking for holistic healing. There's a
Mm-hmm.
huge disconnect for a lot of people from the mainstream medical system, which has let many, many people down over the last 5 years and even before that, but
Yeah.
more importantly in the last 5 years. And so I saw an opportunity there to start teaching another empowerment piece, which is that you can look after your own health. You don't need to go to the doctor every time you have a tickle in your throat. There's things that you can do in your own home, from your garden, in the foods that you eat, in the thoughts that you're having. And so
Mm-hmm.
tying in these two different but similar overlapping business models of Megan Edge Healing, which is the main business, Beyond the Garden
Mm-hmm.
Gate Botanicals, which is at the underneath. And then how else can I step into the world? Okay, I can go to people's homes and I can help them when they're convalescing. I can help them when they need support at home. I can help advocate for them in the medical system because I have that background now in
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceuticals and knowing where to look to find out about what a particular drug is intended for and then what the consequences of taking that drug can be. These are all different
Mm-hmm.
things that I have learned and have taught myself and have become educated in order
Mm-hmm.
to step back into my business in a true holistic sense. And I know it's a lot. And when you ask what are the challenges,
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
biggest challenges is when people's eyes glaze over. They're just like,
yeah.
no, I can't take this in. I don't know what you're saying anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Well, it's a lot, but it's just, yeah, very powerful. And it's like, I think a lot of it is experiencing it, right? And taking that step and, opening your heart and mind to, things outside of our, what we've been taught,
yes. Yeah.
growing
And
up and
actually,
everything.
that moment where you just said opening our hearts and minds, I felt
Mm,
that heart opening, that reminder of, right, okay, if the ultimate question is, why do I do this work?
mm,
That's why. That's
mhm,
why it's the heart. And it's seeing and recognizing how many people are walking around with their heart
mhm.
super tight and really closed and not feeling safe in having those heart opening connections with others, but
Yeah.
most importantly with themselves. And right now, I mean, on one of the more personal parts of what's going on in my life right now, my sister's in
Mm,
hospital
mm.
with critical health conditions that
Oh
we're
my gosh.
trying to help the doctors work through for her. And
Mhm,
am I helping her to work through this? And with this crisis that she's gone through, she
mhm.
said to me, and she was one of those people who said, I don't want to know anything about what you do. I don't believe in any of it. I don't think any of it's valid. I think you're just all woohoo.
Oh wow.
Through
Mm,
this, she has said to me, I'm open. I recognize that I need something
Wow.
else than what hasn't been working for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I will accept what you bring in for me.
Yeah.
That's
I think people are intuitive. They know that intuitively. It's just they're, yeah. How should I say? Like, yeah, the things they were taught is kind of like just is the resistance because it's like, I don't see the connection. But when they're faced with something like that, you can't help but be open,
yeah.
more open, right? I would imagine. I mean, people are like, I'll
Mhm.
try anything. Just help me,
Mhm. Mhm.
that kind of thing. When you get to that point,
Yeah, when you get to that
you
point,
know,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And I can work within the system, and
Hmm.
I can see the value for a person in taking a pharmaceutical for a certain condition that it's going to have
Hmm.
benefit of. And I can also see where I can bring in energetic tools, food tools, essential oil tools, psychology tools to
Hmm.
help that whole process. So
Hmm.
it's that building that bridge between mainstream medicine and alternative medicine, rather than saying it's one or the other. Let's
Hmm.
bring a synergistic relationship between the two approaches and see if we can't create something even more potent and more powerful
Hmm.
than
Yeah,
one or
you
the
can
other.
definitely merge the two and work together, which makes complete sense anyway,
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
top of everything,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, wow. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I know we're getting towards the end here. I just wanted to touch briefly on your experience with your photos because I know you were really having to step out again as the new Megan. And how did that feel for you? I mean, when I look at your photos, and it was, I do have my process that I took you through, and
Mhm.
I see so much confidence and warmth, and your openness, and you're just such a real one of my favorite people because you are so real and authentic. And I'm
Mm.
just wondering, how do you feel they reflect who you are and what you stand for, and how have they impacted your business since then? Because it's been a few years now since then.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and how has that been for you?
Well, first of all, I think it's critical to any practitioner, any
Mm-hmm.
soulpreneur, any entrepreneur, to have that physical representation that's done in a professional manner that also is reflective of who you are intuitively,
Mm-hmm.
which is how you do your work. It's not just a headshot.
That's right.
You're looking to pull forward the aspects of the person, the
Right.
energy of the work that they do and why they do it. And you do a beautiful job with that.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the kind of feedback that I've been receiving over the years about the quality of
Mm-hmm.
the photographs that I have from you. And because we took such a variety of photographs, when I
Yeah.
send out, or when my publicist sends out the press kit to
Mm.
podcasters or magazines or whatever, they get to see, I don't know how many there are. I think there's 15 or 16
Yeah,
images.
something like that. Yeah.
I did
Mm-hmm.
that. I did the full package, and I'm so glad that I did,
Mm-hmm.
because I have such a variety of
Yeah.
ways of showing up in the world. If I'm showing
Yeah.
up on a podcast and they want to know about nature as medicine, I've got those beautiful photos from the garden where I was
That's right. Yeah.
flowers and the dog was there, and I've got those.
Well, yeah.
If it's a more, I don't know, mainstream podcast, or they're wanting to know more about the sort of science behind the work that I do, I've got some of those
Yeah.
studio shots that we took.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
on the website, I get to use all of
Yeah.
those.
There's so
And
many. Yeah. Yeah.
I have continued to use them
Mm-hmm.
over the last however many years. It's been 3 years, I think.
Yes.
Every podcast that I do, the podcaster gets to choose the image that they want to reflect the conversation that we had. I
Mm-hmm.
use them in my newsletters. I'm still using them now. Back then, my hair was very long,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it was a very different look. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I will be honest and transparent. I do have photos that were taken from someone else a few
Yeah.
years back, before that, when my hair was short, and I am using a few of those now because I've had some people say to me, "Wait,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't look like
Well,
your
that's the
picture
only
anymore."
time I tell people, I say, well, it's when you cut your hair or you've changed your business significantly, then we should do some new photos.
That's right.
So yeah,
That's
I
right.
did
Yeah.
see that, and it's totally makes total sense. I mean, it has to obviously reflect who you are and what you look like and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, and that's another piece you mentioned. I mean, because you have the variety of photos, it's the same idea. You can't just get everything you need from a 10-minute consultation with a doctor.
Yes,
Just
right.
like you can't just have one headshot, because it is not representative of who you are as a person or what your needs are for
Yeah.
your physical and mental, emotional health, So it's there's a lot of parallels in there. So
I think there are, and interesting.
yeah,
I know we're wrapping up, but one of
yeah,
the business people that I worked with mentoring when I was doing learning different business models, she said, "Okay, so get a really good professional headshot, and then use that same headshot across all boards, so
yeah,
everything is consistent." And my brain immediately went to, "But that's going to get really boring."
yeah, exactly. Well,
And
there's some truth to that, because you want to be recognizable, but you can't be the only one that you use
that's
for
right.
everything,
Yeah.
right? So, because that's not how we are in real life. We don't show up wearing the same, you know, shirt
Mhm.
and pants, you know, hair hairstyle or whatever, our whole lives. So,
Yeah, yeah. And if a person has
yeah,
one very specific business that they do and that's what they do and that picture is representative, that's great. But for someone like
yeah,
myself who has so many different things that I offer, you know,
yeah,
showing up in a suit and tie for Beyond the Garden Gate Botanicals is not going to elicit the kind of trust that I want to develop with my clients from that business. They want to see
yeah,
me in the environment that they expect me to be able to teach them about, which is in nature.
that's
So in the
right.
garden or in the
Yeah,
forest or something like that. Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a couple of two-pronged question here. So what did stepping into your visibility, because I mean that wasn't the first time you'd had a photo shoot, but what did, yeah, stepping into that visibility teach you about yourself? And then what kind of advice would you give to entrepreneurs or people who are wanting to make a difference, who have businesses that they're passionate about, like what would you say to those people?
So I'm going to answer both questions with the same answer,
Yeah.
which is you have to learn to trust yourself. You have to learn to trust
Mhm.
yourself. And that's about trusting your intuition. And your intuition
That's
is not
right.
some crazy woohoo thing that you don't know about. It's something that you're born with. It's an innate part of being human. And really what it's
Mhm.
about is listening. What is your body telling you? Right? When I decided it was time to step back
Mhm.
in and I reached out to you, it felt good. I knew
Yeah.
it was the right
You knew,
time because
yeah, you knew intuitively. Yeah.
I kept checking in. Is now the time? Is now the time? Nope. Nope. Okay. And something would show up that would remind me that it wasn't the time. In fact, weirdly enough, every time for about 4 efforts that I made over those 2 years when I'd stepped away to
Mhm.
re-engage, thinking that I should, and as soon as you think you should, it's time to question.
That's right.
You you could, but is it the right thing? Is it in your highest good to do so?
Mhm.
Something dramatic, and I mean dramatic and like people dying. And I don't mean to suggest they were dying to stop me from stepping into my work. It's just that that was the event where I realized, okay, now is not the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the bandwidth. I need to be in my grief. I need to be there for my friend. I need to be there for my family. So these things would show up in my life and I would take that as the signal or symbol that now is not the time. So that developing and cultivating the trust in yourself to know when something is in right alignment for you is the answer
Mhm.
for me to both of those questions.
Mhm.
And if you don't know how to
Yeah,
do that, come and see me because I that's what I do. I help people with their intuition. I have whole
exactly. Well,
programs
yeah.
about about helping you develop your intuition and
Yeah.
finding that trust and confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think we can definitely refer clients to each other, because I mean, for me, the intuition and alignment is so integral in what I do. And it's something that I've realized. And that's why I call myself an intuitive guide for my clients, because I do help them through that process
Mm-hmm.
as it pertains to their visibility in photos and showing up, because a lot of that is, people come in with fear and anxiety, or like they just don't really know how to express themselves. And so, I
Yeah.
kind of take all that and it is very aligned with what you're talking about. And uh, yeah, it's become something that I'm kind of more vocal about, because it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I've always intuitively done,
Yeah.
as part of my process.
Yeah.
So, So yeah, that's amazing. And now when you look at 5 years from now, what kind of impact do you envision making for the world or in your community? And also, how do you stay inspired in the work that you do?
Okay. Well, that's the 5-year question. I feel like I'm at the end of
Yeah.
a job interview.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be 5 years. It
Oh,
could be,
I'm
when you
teasing.
look back at the end of the
Yeah.
day, what kind of legacy do you want to have left?
So it's
I
interesting.
guess that's the bigger question.
One of
Yeah.
the exercises that we do in the Thriving in Your Intuitive Business workshop is talking to your future self. We have a
Yes.
conversation with our past self, we have a conversation with our present self, and then we have a conversation with our future self. Where do I see myself in 5 years? I would love to be on a tropical beach somewhere, totally relaxed, knowing that
Yeah.
there are systems in place behind me that are keeping my business, my message, my teachings available to other people without my having to work harder to achieve that. So that's
Right.
what my present self is doing right now. I'm putting out those feelers for, I need help. I need an assistant. I need people who understand how to make things run in the background. And I need people who understand how to monetize what I've already created. So I'm not reinventing the wheel, because I've got 15 years of classes, well presented classes, because my now husband was my business partner, and he's a professional videographer and video editor, and he's worked in film and TV for much of his previous career. So I have the quality product.
That's
I
right.
have the
Yeah.
classes, I have the teachings. Where I
Yeah.
see myself in 3 to 5 years is, again, on that tropical beach, exploring the world, going to all these beautiful
Yeah.
places in the world, knowing that my business is now its own force.
That's right. Yeah. And
Right.
plus, you're educating other people to carry on your work as
Yes.
practitioners. So that's a huge piece.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what inspires me? My clients, the amount of courage that it takes to say, I'm ready to do some healing work, is incredible. And I want people to really hear this. If you've ever said, I need help, I need to see my doctor, I need to see a counselor, I need to see a therapist, I'm going to go get energy healing done, I need a massage, I need to talk to my partner about whatever's going on in our lives, or whatever it is, recognize how incredibly courageous it is for you to do that. And the moment that you do that, even just set the intention of, I am ready, willing, and able now to do the work that is required of me, you are already setting out that energetic intention. And your body is already starting to heal, mind, body, and soul. Because that's what it's been waiting for you to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And people have to give themselves credit for stepping forward like that, because it is very courageous, and wanting to step up in their business, or do something that's going to make a difference. Like, it is very it takes a lot of courage, and I think not enough of us give ourselves that credit. We're always trying to find ways to criticize or keep ourselves small, and thankfully for people like you that actually help us to open our hearts and find that courage, and connect with ourselves and our intuition is so powerful. So thank you so much for speaking with me today and sharing your story. We're going to include all the links to your website and any other links to your workshops and anything else that you have going on for everybody. And I can't wait to get together with you personally, go for a nice walk, reconnect, because there's so much to talk about. But I've learned so much more about you today, and I'm really happy that, we can highlight you and what you're doing, and hopefully inspire, I'm sure we will inspire many listeners to take that next step. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for the space that you're holding for these conversations as well.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to chat again. And have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
All right. Bye for now.